My brother Jake and his fiancée demanded my inheritance for their lavish wedding. When my parents sided with them, I exposed Dad's past affair, a secret I'd kept for years. The family's in chaos, the wedding's scaled back, and I'm uninvited, but finally free from being the doormat. I've been sitting on this for weeks, maybe months, trying to figure out how to even start. I'm not a writer, so bear with me if this rambles. I just need to get this out because it's eating me alive, and I don't know where else to turn. This is about my family, specifically my brother, let's call him Jake, and his fiancée, Sarah, and how everything I thought I knew about my place in our family came crashing down. I'm 28, female, and I've always been the quiet one, the one who doesn't make waves. Jake, 30, is the golden boy, the one who can do no wrong. And now, because I finally stood up for myself, I've ripped open a secret that's changed everything. For context, my family isn't rich, but we're comfortable. My parents own a small business, a hardware store in our smallish town, and they've done okay. Growing up, Jake was the star. He was the high school quarterback, the prom king, the guy everyone loved. I was the bookish one, good grades but shy, always in his shadow. My parents never hid that they favored him. They'd show up to every one of his games, but when I won a state debate competition, they had to close the store and couldn't make it. I got used to it. It stung, but I loved Jake, and he was always decent to me, so I didn't hold it against him. Much. When my grandma passed 3 years ago, she left me and Jake each a small inheritance, about $40,000 each, in a trust. It wasn't life-changing money, but it was enough to feel like a safety net. Grandma was the one person who always saw me, you know? She'd tell me I was her thinker, and she'd slip me books when my parents were too busy fawning over Jake. The inheritance was her way of giving me a leg up, and I planned to use it for a down payment on a house someday. Jake, on the other hand, burned through most of his on a fancy car and a couple of failed business ventures. Think crypto bro nonsense. I didn't judge him for it, at least not out loud. It was his money. Fast forward to last year. Jake started dating Sarah. She's 29, works in marketing, and at first, I liked her. She's charming, loud, the kind of person who fills a room. They got engaged after 6 months, which felt fast. But Jake was smitten, and my parents were over the moon. They started planning this huge wedding. Think venue with chandeliers, a live band, open bar, the works. I was happy for them, even if I felt a little sidelined. Typical family dynamic, right? Then things got weird. About 4 months ago, Jake and Sarah invited me to dinner at their place. I thought it was just a casual catch-up, but the vibe was off from the start. Sarah was overly nice, pouring me wine, complimenting my haircut. Jake kept fidgeting, avoiding eye contact. After dessert, they dropped the bomb. They were short on cash for the wedding. The venue was more expensive than they'd planned, and they wanted it to be perfect. Sarah started talking about how this was their one chance to make a statement, and Jake chimed in, saying they didn't want to start their marriage in debt. Then Sarah looked at me, all earnest, and said, "We were wondering if you could help. You know, with your inheritance." I froze. My inheritance? The money Grandma left me? I laughed, thinking it was a joke, but they weren't laughing. Jake said, "You're not even using it, sis. It's just sitting there. We'd pay you back, obviously." Sarah nodded, adding, "It's family, you know? We're all in this together." I was floored. I mumbled something about needing to think about it and got out of there as fast as I could. On the drive home, I felt this hot, ugly anger bubbling up. Not just at Jake and Sarah, but at the whole situation. My whole life, I'd been the one who stepped aside, who didn't make a fuss. And now they wanted the one thing that was mine. The one thing Grandma gave me to build my future. No way. I didn't say anything for a couple of weeks, hoping they'd drop it. But then my parents got involved. They called me to the house for a family meeting. I walked in, and it was like an ambush. Jake and Sarah were there, and my mom started with, "We need to talk about your attitude." My attitude? Apparently Jake had told them I was being selfish by not helping with the wedding. My dad said, "It's just money, sweetheart. You don't even have plans for it. Jake and Sarah are starting a family. This is important." I tried to stay calm. I explained that the inheritance was for my future, that I wasn't comfortable giving it away, especially since Jake had already spent his. But they kept pushing. My mom said, "You've always been so practical, but this is about love, not numbers." Sarah started crying, saying they might have to cancel the wedding if they couldn't afford it. Jake just sat there, looking guilty, but not saying much. I felt like I was in some twisted reality show. That's when I snapped. I don't know if it was the wine from dinner or the years of being the afterthought, but I couldn't hold it in anymore. I looked at my parents and said, "You want to talk about family? Fine. Let's talk about how you've always treated me like I'm second best. And let's talk about why Grandma left me that money in the first place, because she knew you'd never put me first." The room went silent. Sarah stopped crying. Jake's eyes widened. My parents looked like I'd slapped them. And then I kept going. I don't know what possessed me, but I spilled the secret I'd been carrying since I was 16. See, when I was in high school, I found a letter in my mom's desk while looking for a stapler. It was from my dad's sister, my Aunt Linda, who I barely know because she moved across the country years ago. The letter was angry, accusing my parents of cutting her off after she crossed a line. The line? She'd confronted my dad about an affair he'd had when Jake and I were kids. I didn't know the details, still don't. But the letter mentioned a woman named Karen, someone who worked at the hardware store years ago. Linda said she couldn't stay silent anymore, that it wasn't fair to my mom or the kids. My parents shut her out after that, and we were told Aunt Linda was unstable and not to contact her. I never told anyone I'd read that letter. I was a kid, confused, and I didn't want to blow up my family. But that night, with my parents ganging up on me, it came pouring out. I said, "You want me to sacrifice for Jake? Like you sacrificed Aunt Linda when she called Dad out for cheating on Mom? Yeah, I know about Karen. I know why Linda doesn't come around anymore. So don't lecture me about family." It was like I'd dropped a grenade. My mom's face went white. My dad stood up, red-faced, and started yelling that I had no right to bring up lies from the past. Jake looked at Sarah, who was staring at the floor, clearly out of her depth. I grabbed my keys and left before anyone could say anything else. The fallout has been a mess. Jake called me the next day, furious, saying I'd ruined everything. He said Sarah was traumatized by the drama and that I'd embarrassed him in front of her. My mom texted me a novel-length message about how I'd betrayed their trust by spreading rumors about Dad. My dad hasn't spoken to me since. I tried reaching out to Aunt Linda, but her number's disconnected, and I don't know where she is now. Part of me regrets saying anything, but another part feels free, like I finally stood up for myself. The wedding's still happening, from what I hear, but they've scaled it back. Jake and Sarah haven't asked me for money again, and I'm not invited anymore. I'm okay with that. I'm done being the doormat. but I'm also stuck wondering if I went too far. Did I blow up my family for no reason? Should I have just given them the money and kept my mouth shut? I keep replaying that night, wondering if I could have handled it better. I don't know what happens next. I'm thinking about using some of the inheritance to move out of town, start fresh somewhere new. Maybe I'll try to find Aunt Linda, see if she's okay. I just know I can't keep living in Jake's shadow, and I can't keep pretending my parents are fair when they've never been. If you've got any advice, Reddit, I'm all ears. Thanks for letting me vent.